Hey, Shelly.
Hi.
Welcome to my podcast.
Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks for coming. I wasn't sure if you would be able to make it out or not, and I was like, oh,
Of course.
I'll give it a shot. You, nobody invited you to the podcast, Red. Go, get away from the food. Awesome. So you found it here, no problem.
Yeah.
Oh, you've been here before.
I had. Yeah, it was not this past election, but the one before. Yeah, when I was running, and you were very, very helpful, and
That's how we met,
I
right?
think yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So sorry about
because
that.
you were on the board at that time, I think.
No,
Oh,
I
you
wasn't.
weren't even on the board.
No. So what happened was, this was a 2019 election, right? Or 2021. Yeah, it was 2021. On O'Toole.
Oh yes. Yeah.
And you would decided to run for the Conservatives in Beausejour.
Mhm.
And I just became a member at that time.
Okay.
So anyways, I was tired of it. I was tired of being an armchair guy. He was like, he's just complaining on social media and stuff. I was like, I got to get out there and do something to be more than just a mouthpiece. But yeah. So what about, are you from New Brunswick, or like how'd that all work out?
Yes, born and raised in Moncton. So growing up, I always swore that I would never live in Moncton, and I think eventually I made my way back to Moncton, not immediately, but after high school, I went to university. First in Fredericton, then in St. John, UNBSJ, and graduated with a political science degree, minor in English. And I just remember in English class, this one girl saying something after we were talking and we're getting close to graduation. And she said, I'm going to go teach English overseas. I don't know where I'm going yet, but I'm going to do that because, it was sort of becoming the in thing to do if you just didn't want to lock yourself into a career.
And you weren't, and you didn't want to, and you wanted to do the European, or
well, so
it was Asian,
this,
eh?
this was her idea, but I didn't have that in my mind at the time. So because I was more focused on politics, and the senior political science group that I was studying with, together we published a book. Oh. And when we were doing the book launch, there were, I think it was one of the places that we went to was a conference for the Conservatives. And the book wasn't specific to Conservative Party, but it was rebuilding national parties after the decimation of the Conservatives. And so there was only Charest and Elsie Wayne left.
Okay, yeah.
And so it was kind of a, I'll say a recipe book, but like some, how does a party rebound after that? So that's...
What's the name of this book?
Rebuilding National Political... I'll get you a copy.
Yeah.
So when we were doing doing book sales, we were at a Conservative conference, and there happened to be an MP who who was representing Fundy Rural at the time, and he asked me if I wanted to work for him post graduation. And so it was kind of nice to to line a job in my field of study. And so I went off to Ottawa to work with him as a legislative assistant for about 6 months. But Ottawa is a place that, is kind of, it's a double-edged sword, I guess, in some ways. There's things of wonderful about the city and just about everything that you're, dealing with.
I should hope so. The whole country pours its tax dollars into it.
Yeah, right.
That one city.
Yeah. And then when you get down to the, nuts and bolts of, the function of government, I was given a lot of opportunity, a lot of leeway, I should say. I was trusted to do a lot of things, represent, go to committee meetings without the member and just, report back to what had happened, doing up questions for question period, all kinds of things. And so,
good experience.
Writing speeches, all kind of things.
Yeah.
So it was a great experience. And, but it just wasn't the right time. In February of 2003. That was when I went to Regina. I had never been that far west before.
Okay.
Real cold. It's like
dry. It's like a dry cold, eh? Prairie cold.
Yeah, super. And I was really into running a lot at that time, and so I joined sort of a informal group of fanatic runners that we would run in anything. You know,
Alright.
we would just dress the part, put layers and
You weren't
all over.
you weren't just fair weather runners?
And apart from depot, I would, just run like I.
So this is like in addition to your
Yeah,
training, though.
in addition,
And they had physical training in
Oh yes,
depot.
yeah, it was
Simulation?
simulation, but it wasn't like playing cops and robbers or anything like that. Really, it was. I mean, we had simulated, but most of our shooting was at the range with real weapons. When we were doing simulated training, it was in a controlled environment. Obviously, there's no real targets, but there's mock targets that we're actually shooting at.
Right. And they put you through the ringers by the sounds of things, tear gas and all that other stuff. Now, from there, you get deployed to posts in somewhere in Canada. Now, did you end up coming back to Moncton?
No, I did get posted to Sackville, New Brunswick.
That's close.
Yeah, very close. I
usually they don't
usually send you back unless there's a pre sort of reason. In my case, there was that reason. It was that my now husband was, my intended to be, roommate, I guess, housemate. So we did have plans to cohabitate. I guess that's the word they use.
Right. So you guys were both running the beats at the same time.
Yeah, we were. Well, I was like about 7 years in Sackville, and then switched to Kodiak, but we weren't on the same watch. There was sometimes some overlapping in that, but
I mean, like you're a cop couple.
Yes. Yeah. And for me, that worked out okay because he was a good sounding board. For me, he had a lot more experience and could calm me down if I was, a little bit
excited. Excited.
It was like a reality check, so that was a good thing.
Nice.
Yeah. Or just talking about cases, like we could talk about a court case, because, we were both privy to a lot of, things and so it wasn't like I was breaking any rules,
right.
But also the nuances about the court system and things.
How things work. And
yeah, that's an eye-opener.
Engaging with judges and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Getting like permits.
That's all part of the process that people don't realize how much paperwork goes into the simplest of things.
So you started in 2003 as a police.
Yeah.
And then did you spend your whole career in New Brunswick?
Yep. Everything. Okay. Yeah, I never left New Brunswick. I was pretty much half Sackville, half Moncton. Were
you like a lot on the streets, like out patrolling, or was it like office?
Where I wanted to be. I was hoping to minimize the office time and maximize being out. So, some people just join for different reasons, and there's nothing wrong with that.
What was your reasons for joining?
Some people want to be, running the ranks and, finish off as an officer or something. But I mean, I never had a whole lot of desire to be in the politics side of the RCMP. I really wanted to be on the people side of the RCMP, whereas, engaging with people and helping people, it sounds kind of cliche, but it was genuinely what I enjoyed doing the most.
If you're not going into the RCMP to help people, then what are you doing? Right?
Well, like I say, some people want to run the ranks and get the heck out of.
Yeah, I suppose. Claim a pension and run, right?
We need people at every kind of post. So
yeah, different variety of.
For sure.
So, what were some of your perhaps? Did you have like what was some of your more fun things that you did as an RCMP, like that was relevant to the job, like what I mean?
I'll try not to get into too much dark humor. The people you work with, I mean, that's really what makes it fun and enjoyable. And if you can trust all of your partners and just be, part of a good team, that's 110% what the job is.
Was there like any particular event that you felt particularly good about yourself, or you know what, this is why I joined, and maybe you helped someone out of a tough situation? You don't have to get into details of personal people stuff, right? But because I think most people tend to think of it as oh, that must be a horrible job, always dealing with negativity and all that stuff. But I mean, I'm sure there's you got to deal with the negativity, but there's got to be a payoff on the other side of it, more than just a paycheck, right? Intrinsic value, right?
Absolutely. I think, in a case where, let's say there's a horrific accident, and I've been to several horrific accidents of all kinds, but I think just helping, render some calm and some, comfort, I guess. I would say one in particular, I won't say the details of because, again, not to be too particular, but there would be a son who has been severely injured, and I contact the mother and she arrives. He's already been brought to hospital. So I take her to the hospital, kind of preparing her in a way to what's happened, which there's really no way to say that she's going to be okay. But I mean, as a mom, I would be inside out and backwards too. But at the end, she did. She thanked me for just being there for her, and I can't make it go away. I can't fix it. It is what it is. But it's just having that person there, And so probably that's where I would have said, this is. Oh my gosh! It didn't feel like I was doing much. It feels helpless, I guess, in some ways, because you feel like this person is.
So you might have come off of kind of like the rock of the situation, like somewhere that like maybe like more. I guess what I'm trying to say is you'd be more of like you had to be solid in your role and careful of what you say and do, but there's also flex in there for humanity.
Absolutely. Yeah. You don't want to be that kind of hard person that doesn't think somebody can have a hug or something like that. Like it's it's not that we're a coat of armor and we just don't care about people's feelings. So I think in those cases where you really just help someone a little bit dealing with some very tragic situation, it would be that.
What how long did you serve? What was your length of your career?
It's 15 years.
15 years.
Yeah.
In that 15 years, would you say there was ever a time where you were like, screw this, what am I doing as a cop? Like, because I'm sure everybody experiences that in every job, right? So I'm just kind of curious what it's like as a police officer. Like, how do you square that circle?
I mean, there's certainly times when you think, it never rains, but it pours. And could this get any worse type of feeling, because especially working in a rural area like Sackville and the surrounding areas, you're almost you can be in the middle of nowheres, cell reception, radio reception, gone. So the things that you'd normally be calling out for, for assistance, they aren't there necessarily. And, the worst case is, Murphy's Law sometimes, really. And or you're on a call and things are just so weird, not necessarily super dangerous, but weird, and you think like the general public has no sweet clue what we see in the run of the day, and those kind of things, like sometimes dark humor, but mostly just the way people live sometimes that just strikes you as humorous. Sometimes, but
humorous, but also, what the hell?
To each their own. It wasn't to judge. It was just like, wow, I had no idea this would be happening anywhere in the world. Or
what kind of examples?
I mean, I don't know. People living in places like no. Here I feel it's pretty normal, but just I would say the dynamic of certain families, like really, really people that live in the banjo zone. That you really hear the banjo playing. And,
is that a reference to Deliverance?
Oh, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
And I mean, brothers going after brothers with baseball bat, and and then it just the whole like shit show, I guess.
Was there any funny like what the heck is this real type of situations, like hilarious, not necessarily dark humor?
I don't. Oh my gosh, I wish. Well, funny. I mean, yeah. I don't know. That one doesn't come to mind so much.
No.
As just like, more the dark humor that's really not appropriate.
In the serious, it's a very serious job, right?
It is,
Like, do you ever get like easy days where like, you're supervising like a concert or something like that?
I don't, the concerts are generally people signing up for those because it's done on your days off. So, and then plus Sackville doesn't have any real concerts, but I mean the Moncton concerts, it would be overtime. So the city's paying directly those people to do overtime work.
Like we used to hire them for the cage fighting.
Right.
We used to hire RCMP officers.
Yeah. Sure.
And I was thinking, like, that's a pretty sweet gig.
Yeah.
You get to watch the fights.
Absolutely. But so, that would be like an overtime stint because obviously the taxpayers of Moncton are not going to want to say, oh, yeah, I'm glad I paid for a cage fight, No.
What would be your opinion of the RCMP as an employer? And what would be some advice you would have for younger people or any age?
I forget what the the what do you call that, their ratio is.
Mm-hmm.
But like 1 hour on the streets is probably like 4 hours in the office, or roughly. I mean,
Really?
it's not to say that 1 hour is made up of all, chargeable offenses, but an average is, it's, I'm not sure if that's the exact statistic, but it sounds pretty reasonable, because let's say in 1 hour you can process someone for impaired driving.
Right.
And once you have that person processed, meaning, either release documents or waiting to sober up in a cell or whatever, once that's done, you can do that within an hour. And following that, you're having to prepare a court file. So yeah, that's 3 to 4 hours of paperwork. So, bye. And then I get to go in the office. But what we don't have the luxury of very much is to actually do those things. So you've got to really be efficient and figure out ways to get that particular work done. How much can I do in the car, and how much can I?
Because they've got their laptops in their car now, eh?
Right, they do. But there's certain things that it's not an ideal situation, nor is it great for your back to be turning like this. For your whole
the ergonomics, yeah. Well, maybe they can just use ChatGPT. Fill my.
Like I've been out of the game for 7 years, and probably there's been a lot of advances in that regard too. But I can only speak to my experience, which said, oh yeah, now I got to fight for my time to be able to do the proper courtroom, like court documents. The brain drain.
The brain drain was already bad enough with our locals.
True.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
We want people to migrate here, to stay here, to work here, and to build here. And it's just, there's something that's not, I know this is an out of the blue topic here.
It's not good. That's why it's good to have an open concept.
Right?
Yeah.
But like, what are your thoughts on all this? Right. I know you probably haven't been thinking about it the same way that I have, but.
I think the same can be said for nurses and doctors that, are probably mostly from here as well, that they are getting better offerings elsewhere. And, you kind of go where you think the grass is greener, maybe.
More opportunity.
So, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this. I worked with, because I used to work with the government on business immigration program. So that's another type of immigration stream that we have here, is called business immigration. Anyways, I used to work with them to help get their businesses established here, right? And one couple that I was working with were from Iran. They had immigrated here from Iran, from Tehran, which is the capital of Iran. And they were both surgeons in different fields, right? Yep. Surgeons.
Yep.
Not a nurse.
Yep.
Not a family doctor. A freaking surgeon. Specialized, right? They weren't allowed to be a janitor at the hospital.
Yeah. I know exact same example. My mom babysat for a couple from, must have been Iran, I think, as well. And he was also a surgeon, and he drove a cab. And then he was led to believe that he could eventually do one type of work. Was like, what is it? Where they put you to sleep? The anesthesiology or something. So he took this course in Miramichi. They took his money. I gave him the training, and then it just fell by the wayside. It was political, I'm pretty sure, but like,
how does
what
that,
the heck?
How does that even happen?
I think that the province has to do a better job of the analysis of, what the impact is of a certain number of newcomers. I don't care from where they're from. Like you said, it's a good addition to our society to have various cultures, but what's the impact? We have this number of people, and of course we don't want our populations to go down to the point where, the same thing, we can't afford to sustain ourselves. And
well, one big thing that's a very stark reality for us right now, sorry to cut you off, is the housing inventory.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's what I was getting at too. Yeah, and the lack of housing and the lack of services at the hospital. I went the other day, and she said the wait's at 28 hours, and I was like, in an emergency situation, if you don't have an emergency, obviously you're going to try going to a clinic. So if you're presenting at the hospital, probably it's more than a clinic can handle. And 28 hours? Like, that's
unreasonable.
Getting crazy. And I think, every day we hear on the news, what's the price of gas? Up 2 cents, down 2 cents. Let's talk about the wait times at the hospitals, just to make the average person aware.
Oh, but during the previous government, that's all they could talk about. Remember? It's funny how that works, Yeah. When a conservative's in power, we highlight all the problems. When the liberals in the power, it's like, oh, well,
Yeah. always,
It's just the way it is. Steady as she goes. It's like, come on, double standard. And this is what okay, this is going to foray into another topic here is people are so anti-politics to begin with. When they do finally pay attention to a bit of politics, they pick a team like it's hockey game. Like, I want the red team. I want the blue team. That's basically, I know they might go a little bit deeper than that, but it's a fairly superficial selection process. Let's face it, right? And then everybody argues with each other during the elections. And then one side will be like, or they'll say like, well, if we win, you're not going to challenge it, right? You're going to play nice and we're just going to move forward with our government of the day. And I like, yeah, whatever, yeah, I suppose. But then the response to that is, but you'll be standing beside me as a citizen to hold them accountable, regardless if they're red or blue, right? Because at that point, the red and blue disappears in their government, period.
Yeah.
No, you can't get that. No, you got to protect your team, your hockey team.
Right. No, I think I understand what you're saying for sure. Yeah, Trudeau had great hair. That's why I support Liberal.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
There was some people that were that bad, right, with their choices. And like I was having a conversation the other day with someone, I can't even remember who it was, but I'm not afraid to come up with wild suggestions every once in a while. And I was like, oh, they were talking about how the UK just lowered the voting age to 16 or somewhere's in Europe. I think it was the UK. Okay. Did you hear about that?
No, I haven't.
And just
recent.
I think it just happened or they just proposed it. I think it actually just happened. And now because the UK did it, everyone else is talking about it, right?
Yeah.
And here in Canada, there's a Liberal MP that actually put forward a
members bill.
I don't know. I think it was just a petition.
Oh, yes.
Calling for the lowering of the age to 16. I'm like, so I was thinking about it. At first, my initial knee-jerk reaction is like, no, they don't pay taxes. They don't. Like you can work till 18 without paying any taxes. What's the life experience that they have? You know, that should be allowed to be a part of saying how we run our country. Like these people, nobody would give them a say at a freaking McDonald's shareholder meeting, would they? To how they would run that company. But yeah, countries are different. They're less important. Anyways, so we're having this conversation. I'm like, fine. I'm okay with lowering the voting age to 16 because I know there's some very intelligent 16-year-olds out there. And myself, I was homeless when I was at 16. So like I was on my own at 16. So I know that there's some 16-year-olds that are more responsible than 30-year-olds that are out there. Yeah. Right. Sure. So I'm like, this age thing, like, yeah, okay, I get it. But how about this? As a compromise of lowering it down to 16, how about we introduce not a license, but a mandatory information session on what the heck a government is, the different levels of government, and what they're responsible for, and how it affects your life as a voter.
Right.
That's it. That's all. And make that for all ages.
Yeah.
How about that? Right?
Right.
And I get it. There's like constitutional challenges with like mandatory stuff when it comes to, because heaven forbid we have less voters, even if more of them are more responsible and knowledgeable about, and whatever other term I can attach to that.
Right.
Why? I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that's such a bad thing to have someone spend 15, 20 minutes to be informed a little bit about what government is and how it actually works?
Yeah, I would worry, like you said, about how many people are just not going to bother because it's hard enough to get them to the polling station, let alone say, you have to, be part of this time, more time involved.
Why do we have to have so many people involved?
Yeah. Oh.
Why do we, okay. What's with this? We're never going to achieve it, 100% voter participation. So what's the real true value out of having 60% voters instead of 50% of the population voting? That extra 10%, what's that changing?
Yeah.
Are we just pissing people off and forcing them to go vote? Peer pressuring them? Is that really effective and helpful? I'm all over the place here.
Good point. Though, really.
Yeah, I'd rather have 50% be informed.
Yeah, but what is informed? Okay, fine. You know about the way government works, but do
That's a
we
starting
then have
point.
do we then have to go into these candidates and researching them and themselves and the parties that themselves?
A responsible person would do their due diligence.
They sure would.
But
In
to
a
make it
perfect
mandatory,
world.
no.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
saying level 1, intro level, at least get the basics. You know, there's people in government that don't even know the difference between municipal, federal, and provincial.
Every day, yes.
And did you know that there's people in government who don't even realize there's a 4th level of government, which is the indigenous people who are self-governed within our country?
Right. Good points.
So this is 4 levels of government. What percentage of the population do you think is aware of just that there's 4 levels of government and can actually name them?
Right. Yes, it's a sad thing when, and is it the school system that falls, responsibility, or just the regular civic duty of an individual who
which comes from the school.
Yeah. And should somewhat come from home, like the family should be able to talk about what's going on and who's responsible for what. And,
I feel like the family's job is more to talk about the values. You know what I mean? Like,
maybe a little bit, but I think it's like, gone are the days when the newspaper arrives in the morning and, discussions. Like when I think about that exact thing, I think about Mary Paul, that was my campaign manager, and she grew up in a family. Well, I don't think her father was involved, but her mother was like the superpower of her family. I can't remember how many siblings she had, but the mother was insistent that they all read the paper. They had discussions about what was going on in society, in the news, in this. She said that was the way their house functioned. And I'm like, damn, that is amazing. Here she was, poor, and just that was from the get. I feel like, school has kind of that responsibility to take the ball from there and maybe a little bit farther, but the desire is kind of the fire in the belly, I guess, is ignited in the house.
Yeah, I think there is. You're right. There is like that home base, that home level. I was trying to say more values, like if you're really raised in a religious household, for example, then you might focus more on religious rights, for example, and that aspect of politics. And but like, what about the kid that grows up in a crime house, right? Like both parents are heavily in crime, in and out of jail, whatever the case may be. They've been basically left to their own devices, right? And there's tons of them. Like, do they just miss out because their household didn't provide that, or do we integrate it into the school system?
Oh yeah, I'm not fighting for no integration in the school system. Definitely, it has to be there. More probably than it is now, even. But like, if it were to be a perfect world, the average family should also be encouraged to have the kinds of conversations that kids can, think on their own, like build those skills of like, I can think like, so many kids, they go off to school, they're like little robots, and they get the information fed to them and a test happens and they regurgitate the information. But if you ask them to go beyond that and talk about, just the overall application or even what their opinion is, like they'd look at you like you had 3 heads, because there's really no like example in their life where they had to do that.